Welcome back to AY After Hours with Doug and Kelly. We've talked quite a bit on some of our past episodes about the significance of being part of a family business. And it's kind of in that same vein, we wanted to sit down with some folks that we know that is near and dear to their heart and know what all that dynamic is about and how special that is for a company this day and age. So do you want to go ahead and introduce our guest, Doug?
Yeah. Today we have KIE along with us out in the Washington area. And so I just kind of wanted to introduce Amelia and Gus and kind of give you throw it out to you as far as kind of give us a little bit of background as far as what KIE sells and who are your customers.
Yeah, tell us who you are and your relationship to each other and a little bit about your business.
Sure. So do you want me to? I'll start. I'm Amelia Kittson, and I am a third generation owner here at KIE Supply. I'm also currently a vice president, and you can introduce yourself.
I'm Gus Kittson. I was the second generation and have been the president since the passing of my father in 1984 or so.
Yeah, about 84. So KIE was started by my grandfather, Augustine Kittson Sr., back in 1955. So we're approaching our 70-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, Kennewick, Washington. We're in the southeastern corner. And since then, we have expanded into Eastern Oregon, and now our newest location, which opened about a year and a half ago in the Boise market. So we are in 3 states with a total of 6 locations, and we sell plumbing, irrigation, wastewater, and electrical supplies, as well as have decorative plumbing and lighting showrooms.
Great. So, doing a little bit of research on your company in the past, you started off on the electrical side of things and kind of spread your wings as far as the different supplies with when you're talking about the plumbing and irrigation. What was that decision like? And during that time, was there any concerns on the growth and that sort of thing?
Well, going back to the addition of plumbing, at about 1962 was when that was added. And that was a wholesaler that was about 2 blocks down the street from us was going out of business. And the person who had worked for them for a number of years, again, that's that greatest generation, these guys that came back from World War II and got into the industry or whatever. Dale Staley Sr., he said, hey, there's room for this in this market. Well, you need to get into this. And he knew all of the vendors and stuff. And so we got into the plumbing. And a couple years later, because there's so much crossover, we got into irrigation. And mind you, originally it was agricultural irrigation, aluminum pipe, wheel lines, that kind of stuff. We got out of that probably 30 or 40 years ago when we mostly it's all turf irrigation with us now. And wastewater, we put that in kind of like what's outside the house is outside the house and what's inside the house is inside the house, The way to break it. So for AY, a lot of our business is outside. Okay, so most people in this part of the country have their if it's a pump, unless it's a booster pump, your AY booster pumps are inside the house, but we sell them out there, outside group, because that's where our pumping specialists are.
Okay.
So we stock those. We stock a lot of your, you call them waterworks valves and fittings, and we call them connections, basically. We're not necessarily a waterworks house, but brass, curb stops, that kind of stuff fit into that category outside. Sell a lot of that product.
I guess kind of what he was alluding to is that when we made the decision over the decades to expand into different verticals of the business, it was the right people, the right place, the right time, right? There was always a story behind it where it made sense in the current market environment. And with the people that we had as resources, right? They brought with them customers, they brought with them vendor connections. And to be frank, if I can make money out of it, I'll sell you paint off the wall. But we want to make sure that it aligns with what we do as a business. And so that's kind of how we started with electrical, with my grandfather exiting World War II as a master electrician. And ended up where we're at here with our three main verticals of electrical, plumbing, and irrigation wastewater.
Do you think being a family-owned business that influences how you make decisions when it comes to those kind of monumental moments that are probably going to be a little milestone in your long timeline?
Yeah, we've done a lot of those types of decisions, and we've gotten out of some industries that we were in at one point in time because it didn't fit with our long-term plan. Okay, we sold hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of wood stoves at one point in time for heating in homes, and all of the truckloads of triple wall vent pipe and that kind of stuff. But we saw that as a declining market with the environment, and we made the decision that that's not where we want to spend our capital, our development of.
Part of it also was, as I came in, we had to sit down and I said, we need to focus on who we are as a company, who we want to be, what are our main values, what is our mission? And part of that is to really emphasize the fact that we are locally owned. We are owned by people here. You're not calling and talking to somebody halfway around the world or whatnot when you need help or support on your account or whatnot. And so from after that point going forward, when I came in, we really started to, at least I think, emphasize the mission of this is family owned. We are supporting the local community. And that's done us well.
So talking about as far as on the family side of the business, Gus, you took it over after your father and Amelia, your grandfather. So during that transition, did you learn things, and then did you take those learnings when you were transitioning them from you then to Amelia?
Yeah, the transition from I got out of Washington State University with a degree in business and went to work for the company, and we weren't planning on as fast a transition as what happened. My dad came down with cancer. It was discovered in like August of 1984, and he died in November.
Oh,
so
wow.
A very fast thing. We're trying a much slower, more developed transition here.
We've already had more time working together than he had with his father at this point. So, yeah. But you've been able to take lessons from that.
Yeah, and yeah, so I probably, will still be in town. I'll still be, bouncing around a little bit, but I'm 68 years old this month. And so at some point, you want to go off and do other things in life too,
Sure.
Yeah, what are those things? What's on the docket once we retire here or semi-retire?
They want to travel so much. My mother is a terrible influence on him. They love to travel, so she takes them off everywhere, and I'm okay, bye.
Let's see. In the last year, we've been on a river cruise in Portugal on the Douro River. Okay, we've been on a tour through our Washington State University Alumni Association through the Maritimes. We spent 2 weeks in the Maritimes going around on that. We've, I don't know, we've been to different places. That's just the last 6 months or so.
Oh, wow.
But I guess thinking back to kind of your original question of like lessons learned, what we have, I guess this isn't the first time I've told this story. I've told it to some other publications before, but we've talked about how my grandfather didn't necessarily, because they thought they had more time, introduce my dad to a lot of the vendors, and he hadn't started establishing a lot of those high-level vendor connections. And so when my grandfather passed, there was a little bit of turmoil because the vendors didn't know who this new guy was coming in, this new kid really at the time. And so from the time I was in college, even on summer vacation, when he'd be going to meetings, I would go with them, and rather than lay out by the pool, I would go into those meetings with him. I may not know what I was looking at or what we were necessarily even talking about, but it was about starting to establish those face-to-face connections so that now I've been talking to a lot of the same vendors for 10 years, right? And they know who I am. There's that sense of continuity.
Sure.
Right.
That works also with banks. I mean, in other institutions, same thing. You have to have those continuity. You have to make them feel comfortable around you. And that's part of the transition.
So I think like your education path, Amelia, and kind of your background and the way you got into this is very interesting. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about, the schooling you have and the scholarship and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I did my undergraduate degrees. I have a degree in business and marketing as well as a degree in music from Washington State University. That's the local, university a couple hours away from where we live. And while I was there, I spent my summers working here at KIE because, you need a summer job. And I discovered that actually, ironically, while working in the irrigation department, stocking fittings, I think I can make this work. I enjoy this. I like the customers. I like the environment of this company. I think I can do this for a living. And so from there, after I graduated from my undergrad, I came back to KIE, worked for several years, led us through an ERP transition from a circa 1987 system to a modern ERP system, right? We're starting to position pieces for the future long term. And then I made the decision, it's time for me to go get my MBA. It was something I'd always wanted to do. And I discovered that the University of Wisconsin has a fabulous, very highly ranked MBA specializing in supply chain management. And it is actually supported by the Granger Institute, like Granger Industries. And so I applied. I went back there and met with them. And they ended up offering me a full ride fellowship, fully supported by, I call him old Mr. Granger, the guy who runs that whole foundation and company. And so I went back, got my MBA in supply chain. At the time, most people didn't even know what supply chain was. Right now, it's a buzzword in a post-COVID world because everybody was talking about, supply chains broke down, we can't get what we need. But at the time that I went, my own mom was even, what are you getting a degree in? What is this? But it really has served me well. And so I've come back and here we are.
It's funny that you say that. The other day, my mom said something about supply chain. I think she was ordering something on Amazon. And she's like, that's a supply chain issue. I'm like, who are you?
Exactly. It's a buzzword now. Everybody knows it.
What Amelia doesn't tell you is that she got her first 2 degrees, which are in totally different universities, with honors in 3.5 years.
2 different colleges.
2 different colleges within the university.
So,
Gus, you have to be really proud. On 2 sides of it. You're proud of all her dedication, accomplishments, but also she's like following in your footsteps. I just think that's pretty special.
It is. I mean, we have a lot of feeling for our employees, and it would be easy to sell out. I mean, who doesn't want to buy a company that's doing $40 million a year? There's people who eat jumping all over. Our situation is that my wife and I don't have to sell it to have a nice retirement, and we can have another generation come along and take care of the people that made it so that we could have this business.
So that's got to put you somewhat at ease as far as knowing that you're going to hand off something that you and your father have put your blood, sweat, and tears into to someone
who's going to care just as much.
Care just as much as what you have. That's got to be a kind of a little bit easier to retire or kind of step away a little bit at times.
Yeah, we take our responsibility to our employees and their families and the community and our role in that really, really seriously. And that was really something that was started by my grandfather. I hear stories from some of the very older customers who still come in sometimes who knew who he was, and they know us as Kennewick Industrial rather than our kind of rebranding that we went through as KIE, and some older employees who may come back who may have been at kind of the end of his life, and they talk about how he would take a notepad and go around and now what do you do? Let's talk and have conversations with each of these people. He took the time to do that, and so we really try to continue that tradition and honor that.
I mean, we know our employees, we know their children, we know their spouses, we know, you ask questions, Carrie, how's your daughter, how's school going this year? You get that relationship going, and that makes a big difference in your employees and with your customers. We've had some customers that they want to retire at some point when just because they bought from us for 40 years. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, I know that we bought from AY McDonald since the 70s at least. Wow.
Well, hopefully this podcast doesn't ruin that.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said this, but something to the effect of people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So I think that goes into the same thing you were saying, Amelia, about how those people remembered how your grandfather made them feel. That really sticks with people.
So obviously you're looking at third generation. What surprises have you run into over those generations that really kind of stand out in your minds?
It's not easy always. Some people think that it'd be so simple, and you got to learn how to separate sometimes your home life from your work life. And that's taken me a long time, but I feel like I've gotten a lot better at that. It's gotten older and more experienced.
Yeah, so you're not always talking about it at the dinner table or at holidays where other family members are like, okay, that's enough.
Sometimes it comes up, a thing here or there. But most of the time I don't bug him too much at home anymore, mostly because we'll just address it later when we go back,
Yeah, we have kind of a set date, Sunday dinner at our house with Amelia and her fiance, and that's more family time, not business time. The business is here. I mean, we may say, oh, don't forget there's a meeting Monday morning, fine, but it's really, we don't talk much about business there. There was a little bit of a hiccup between, going from my dad to me, because I have other siblings that were didn't know if I was going to be the right fit for the business. And, you work through those family dynamics over time. We still have one older sister that serves on our board.
But other than that, it's pretty much him and I. We're doing this.
That's great. How many employees do you have?
We have about 100 between 6 locations in 3 states.
It's great to hear, the amount of respect and, the feelings that you have towards your coworkers. It's I think it sounds as though that has been a huge part of your overall success.
I like to think so. I think it differentiates us, right? We're not always going to be the lowest price in town. But we want to pride ourselves on our customer service, but also who we are as a company and how we treat our people. And I think that really shows in the community and how they view us.
I mean, if they want the absolute lowest price and we're going to go around and go to everybody in town,
that's probably not a good fit for us anyway then.
Yep.
But if they want someone, if they call and it's 5 minutes to 12 here, and they say, oh, we really screwed up, we've got to get something out here by 2 o'clock this afternoon, or we're going to get this job shut down, they know that we'll have it there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, before 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
We'll take care of them.
We'll take care of them. And, you don't have to do that very many times before they realize, there's something in this. I mean, that 0.5% or 1% that they're more expensive or whatever, there's a cost to that service.
Yeah, that loyalty is something you just can't find everywhere. I think, too, the way, everybody talks about, like, staffing issues, and it's so hard to find people and retain people. I think that's probably the thing that maybe sets AY apart, and it sounds like you guys as well, when you treat your coworkers like family and there's this level of respect, you enjoy going to work every day, so you're a lot less likely to leave a place like that. So it sounds like you guys got that part figured out.
Yeah.
It's interesting, how many, we give out plaques, starting at, 15 years or 20 years.
Yeah, I have some over there. 15 years.
15 years, and then each year it's a little bit.
5-year increment.
Each 5-year increment is a little bit different color plaque. And, when you start giving away 40-year plaques.
Yeah.
And they display them on their desks. They display them on the walls, they have them. They're proud of them, and they're proud of that experience that they've had with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a retirement this week that's 43 years. A gentleman's been here 43 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. That's a chunk of your life, right?
Yeah, I mean, you see them grow up. You see them grow up. You see them get married. You see them have children. You see their children have children almost. But you go through this whole process, and that's just been the way that our company has always been.
So
Very cool.
Speaking of KIE and relationship to AY, do you have any interesting AY stories from over the years?
Yeah, we hired an employee a number of years ago, and he's retired, and he worked for this company called AY McDonald Supply or something, for 20 years after World War II. And then, so he worked for us for 15, 20 years.
Well, so after he left, which I guess AY Supply was at one point, AY McDonald had a wholesale arm. He was a regional, I think, for that.
Yeah, and then in the Dubuque, not Dubuque, but the middle of Iowa.
Des Moines
area.
And then he came and worked for us and ended up becoming our sales manager for probably 15 or so years before he retired. So that was Calban Low. But
yeah, he knew all the McDonald's.
World.
Yeah, and so it goes on and on. You have these relationships, and there are times that go up and down with anything. Let's be realistic, but like I said, I mean, we buy small things like clamps from you guys. The pinch clamps, or we buy pumps from you. So those are all different things that you have in your basket of tricks, and we don't buy them all, everything you have, but we buy a lot of your different products, and it's been a good relationship for over 40 years.
What's the best part of working with your dad, Amelia?
well, I get to spend probably a lot more time with him than I would if I was working elsewhere. We weren't working in the same place, right? This is time memories that I'm going to be able to have and look back on for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's great.
And sometimes she even gets lunch.
30 minutes, Amelia, go. Is there anything else that you guys want to share? I mean, you know, part of doing this podcast is we try to pick, you know, people and companies that we think are special and interesting. So is there anything you want to share about your company or being part of a family business that we missed?
It's interesting when you live in a town like we are that you have a lot of several businesses that are multi-generational, okay? Just down the street from us is a little company called Lamson Crane Service, and they're a third or fourth generation, I think.
Third, fourth.
And my mother was a good friend of Lottie Lamson, and which was Neil Lamson, the originator's spouse, and they are one of the largest mobile crane companies in the world. They're in Australia and Europe and South America and all that, and they're just about a half mile down the road. Here's their office. Or, you know, you see these multi-generational companies like that are not you know, our bank that we'd had for many years, Baker Boyer, was in the sixth generation of ownership of a bank. You can imagine a bank that was formed in the 1850s in Washington State, that they're still family owned and operated. And so, you know, we run into all these different things, and when you do that, it amazes me how many that have been able to succeed. You know, it's so seldom they get past the second generation, or even, you know, and it's part of what we do.
It sounds as though, you know, that whole concept of, you know, after the first generation, the second generation, if you get past that, then, you know, it shows to be successful. And it definitely seems to be like you're heading in that direction for sure.
For sure. And there's a lot of changes that have to be made, right? We're no longer a little mom and pop.
Yeah.
We can still carry through some of those values, just like we talked about AY has, right? Of family, of supporting and respecting your employees, et cetera. But we had to change some things about how we go about doing business in order to continue to scale, right? And grow and be successful. And I think that we've been doing a pretty good job. We're on a pretty good trajectory here.
That's great.
Yeah, I love that. I love not getting just kind of stuck and set in the way things have always been done. I mean, I'm in innovation, so I love change, but most people aren't a big fan of that. So I think it's
weird, right? And I get that.
It's so forward thinking to know you have to evolve. I love it.
I've got some of the old records of my dad's that were handwritten ledgers, you know, and then, you know, we went to Cardex, and then we went to a Burroughs posting machine, and then we went to the first generation of computer, and then the second generation of computer, and now it's, you know,
A modern cloud-based ERP, right? I mean, it's
it goes on and on. I mean, if you don't change, you're not going to succeed. You'll get ran over by the competition. You know, that's really the truth. I mean, and unfortunately, some people don't see that. But it's been a wonderful life for myself, for my family, for, you know, the growth of the company. We've been here a while.
Great.
Yeah, this has been great.
Good. You want to close it out?
Are we gonna?
This is the bad part that I usually screw up. So I'm here. I'm handing that over to Kelly.
I keep making my plea for AY After Hours with Kelly and Doug.
We'll see how it goes.
It's never happening.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Amelia and Gus, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and to sit with us. And we just find your company and your whole dynamic and how personable you are just so interesting. We love that you care about your people so much. That really resonates with, I think, the AY family here too. So thank you so much for sitting down with us.
It's great to have learned more about KIE.
Thanks for having us.
If you ever want to come out and visit us, you're welcome. You know, there's our Walla branch is 20,000 square feet with a 20,000 square foot winery next door.
Oh.
There you go.
I'm in.
And I own the building the winery's in.
Oh, there you go.
I'm in. And for those of you listening or watching, thank you for tuning in to AY After Hours with Doug and Kelly.
There you go.
We will see you next time. Oh, I forgot to say, don't forget.
It's not easy, is it?
I don't do the closing.
It's not easy.
Let's try that again. So to all of you listening and watching, thank you for tuning in to AY After Hours with Doug and Kelly, and continue to follow us on the socials.
There, she forgot to say that thing about
The
the socials.
We used to try to say all the Facebook, Instagram, whatever all the other things are.